Hey, everybody, welcome to the Going Ballistic podcast, episode number 52. Jason's back with us. Hello, Jason.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back, as always.
How you doing, man? Just busy as ever with work?
Busy with work, trying to get our camp trailer nightmare money pit that we have rebuilt for our annual river trip. Our family always goes to Parker every year.
When did the
And
Kleckner family start using trailers? I mean, in the past 10
uh,
years, all you guys use trailers. That's not camping.
no, I think it has to do with age because I can remember when I was younger going, "Nah, man, I'll never need one of those things. I'm always good right here on the ground in my tent." I think it's an age thing, man, because I got to tell you, I like my trailer.
I imagine it's comfortable. You also I like my house. That's
Yeah,
not the point of
exactly. So, but it's like having a house in the woods. So,
Man,
can't
I still
complain about it
remember
too
your
much.
brother and I camping in one of those military pup tents. Just so scared we were so scared we couldn't stop talking about being scared because you and Terry were out there scaring us, climbing up trees and trying to jump down at us and stuff like that. I still remember that. That's funny.
Well, I remember the last time I was in a tent was, and I had a trailer at the time, was went on a deer hunt, and I think Tucker was probably 16 at the time. No, he wasn't 16, probably 14.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we were in a tent. It was Jared, my dad, I, and Tucker, and a nasty rainstorm came across. I mean, just lighting up the whole tent, lightning smacking the ground, shaking, the ground, and Tucker rolling over and, "Hey, are we gonna be okay?" I said, "Dude, we're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it."
That's
So
funny.
those are the experiences that I miss in a tent because we have been through some snowstorms, snowed in for the weekend. I mean, I have story after story of
You had like a cheaper Coleman tent one time that just leaked like crazy on you, didn't it?
never leaked. That was the
Really?
longest lasting, best tent that we ever
I
owned.
thought you had a bad experience with one. Must have been your dad. Oh well.
That was my dad. So
Yeah.
my
Okay.
Coleman tent was the one that survived that trip.
That's
Uh, that
funny.
was that was an elk hunt where he got flooded out, and they woke up underwater in their tent. It was running out the door. And by the time we went and got cleaned up and dried up and came back, it was so cold it froze solid. So all their gear was froze under the water. And oh yeah,
Yes, everybody. It freezes in Arizona sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. A couple hours from Phoenix, man, we get some cold weather.
Man, I miss elk hunting so bad. I need to get a non-resident tag and get out there.
Yes, you do.
So, are there any bison left on the north rim of the Grand Canyon? I know they were doing some hunts for those.
Sure, there is. Yeah.
How easy is it to get one of those tags? Because I think maybe we owe it to the podcast to go on a bison hunt.
I don't know actually. I've never even looked into it. I've seen them up there a couple times when I was up in Kaibab.
Well, I know they're giving
Um,
out tags to get rid of them because they're trying to do like a depredation hunt for like a
correct.
whole group of bison up there. Is a bunch of bison called a herd? I don't know.
I don't know. I like bison meat. I mean, it's one of my favorites,
Yeah,
but
they
I've
had
never
like too
hunted it.
many up there. They're like giving out over the counter tags, I thought. So you look into that, and I will try to get us 2 Barrett Rec 10s, and we'll
Oh,
go hunt a bison with a Rec 10.
that'd be fantastic.
All right, it's a deal. Red Leg just said Tatanka. That was a Dances with Wolves reference for any of you that are too young to get that. So everyone's chiming in already online. I appreciate it. So we had, wow, tons of people already come in the comments. Wes already asked one. Ryan, my response doesn't need to be long-winded. What are you trying to say, Wes? As I'm guilty of not doing much research. If I get my FFL and SOT, will I need to still get tax stamps on silencers I buy from dealers, or can I use them? Well, that's a good question. So an FFL is something that you get. An SOT is something that you become. That might sound like a nuance that doesn't matter, but it does. Because the FFL is a license and the SOT is a type of taxpayer you are. SOT stands for Special Occupational Taxpayer. So again, it's not something that you get. So you get an SOT registration. I mean, you get a piece of paper that says that you are an SOT. But once you become a special taxpayer, you pay the tax annually, which means you don't pay the tax per item. So a transfer of an NFA item is always from one taxpayer to another taxpayer. So that's why when one company, if you want to get a couple FFLs at different locations, or you just have a couple FFLs yourself, you have a dealer's FFL and you have a manufacturer's FFL, and you have a silencer on the dealer's FFL. to get it to the manufacturer's FFL, there's no Form 3 required. There's no actual transfer of an NFA item because it is staying with the same taxpayer. So don't think about it as FFLs or entities for NFA items. Think about it as taxpayers. And so, Wes, if you are the taxpayer and you've already paid your special occupational tax, that means you're done. You paid that tax for the year. So you can get all of your NFA items, not tax-free, but you just pay them when you pay your SOT. So at the low end, it's $500 a year. That can be a lot of money for some folks. I get it. But by the time you get your third NFA item, you've made your money back. Now, can you use them? Well, it kind of depends. I mean, if you're using them as your FFL for a business purpose, yeah, you can keep it on your license. But once you want to convert it to your personal inventory, now you're changing from your business taxpayer to your individual taxpayer, which is why some people want to be a sole proprietor so that the FFL and them are the same thing. I know that gets complicated. I don't want to get down the weeds on that one. But yeah, the whole point of becoming an SOT, Wes, is so that you can get as many NFA items as you want, and you can sell as many as you want, and you don't pay any tax per item. And another answer real quick, Robert came in. There's some news about ITAR and possibly changing. Who needs to pay it? Robert, that's old news. I'm not beating up on you for bringing it up. I just got a comment on Facebook about it. Some people just made a post about it. But if you go look at, there's a recoilweb.com article that I wrote about the ITAR changes a few months ago. It's the same things. And it's, believe it or not, the same things that Obama tried to do twice. So, Jason, I forget. Have we talked about that?
I can't remember.
All right. Well, I'll do one more Rocket FFL thing because they're like our main sponsor, right? So
that's right.
Go get your FFL with Rocket FFL. Here's some non-legal advice, legal advice. So the ITAR is the International Traffic and Arms Regulations, and it's the regulations that are promulgated by the State Department that carry out, the federal laws, which is ACA, the Export Control Act. And no, I'm not done with acronyms. Is on the ITAR, there is also the USML, that's the United States Munitions List. And that's the list of things on the ITAR that are governed by the ITAR. And on there are things like GPS guidance systems, communications, cryptography, rocket launchers, tanks, helicopters, and most firearms. So, yeah, so what Casey brought up, I talked about in Trigger Words. That's true. My other podcast, Trigger Words, I talked about this already. So you guys can go tune into that. I'll give you a Reader's Digest version here. Is if you make any rifles or handguns or components or ammunition therefore, so rifle triggers or rifle stocks or things like that, then you have to register under ITAR with the State Department. Here's another acronym for you, the DDTC, the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls. Yes, it's sickening that I have to remember all these things. You register with them and pay $2,250 a year to be registered with ITAR just so you can make a rifle or handgun part, complete firearm, or ammunition, because that item might someday be exported, and when they go to export it, they want to be able to look up your registration. Now, sporting shotguns, so anything over 18 inches is under Commerce Department. It's a whole other set of regs. But short-barreled shotguns are under ITAR. So, man, good luck figuring out what's a part or component for a short-barrel shotgun versus a full-size shotgun. It can get messy. So Obama, even though we love to hate him for the gun industry, he didn't really ever do anything negative for the gun industry. And in fact, he tried to do something huge for us, so a big win for us that he doesn't get credit for, is he tried to help do this export control reform initiative, which is where he was trying to take a whole bunch of things off of ITAR and move them under commerce. Because he said, this is ridiculous that we're treating a rifle stock the same as we're treating a rocket launcher. That's stupid to have the same amount of regulation. So he was trying to do, in his words, as President Obama's words, higher fences around smaller yards. So he was trying to protect less things, smaller yards, but then put higher fences around them and protect those things better. So he was getting ready to move all firearms, those category 2 of the ITAR, off of the ITAR, move them over to the USML, to the Commerce Control List under Commerce, which would have meant no more ITAR registration. It would have meant no more State Department export licenses. It would have meant no more congressional approval for everything over $1 million. Yes, these big manufacturers that make a sale of over $1 million, Congress has to actually be in session and approve the sale. It's insane. So he was trying to get the entire firearms industry off of ITAR, which would have meant no more of those registrations. And it made it through all the approval processes, and it got published in the Federal Register, and it went to the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, to get approval to be a law. And then the Newtown shooting happened. And there was so much polarizing political stuff about firearms that they pulled it back. and they moved all these other categories over. So a whole bunch of other stuff got moved off ITAR, but they held back firearms. Then enough time passed, and they decided they're going to make the push again on their own. This is something President Obama was doing to help the firearms industry. And then, seriously, it got down to the week it was going to be put into effect, and the San Bernardino shooting happened. It's insane. So then it sat on the back burner forever. So Trump comes in office, and President Trump decides, hey, let's do this. This is unburdensome to the firearms industry. I actually was talking to the editor of Recoil Web about this deal, that it was before the Las Vegas shooting. That's where I'm going. I was talking to her about it before it as a topic, and we were discussing how the timing was just uncanny. And then we're getting excited for it to change. So I ended up writing the article for her explaining how this could be good news for the firearms industry, because export control reform laws are probably boring for you to hear now. They're even more boring to read about. And the Las Vegas shooting happened the week that it cleared the Office of Management and Budget again. So I actually showed her the dates that it was published in the Federal Register. It was about to become a law, or about to go into effect. And I kid you not, that same week, the Las Vegas shooting happened. So it got pulled back again. So 3 times our federal government has tried to ease the burdens on the firearms industry. And all 3 times there's been a mass shooting. Now, there's plenty of people that say that's a conspiracy theory, and that proves the government's really doing these shootings. And I say, no. If the government wanted to not move them over, they'd stop trying so hard. It's the easiest way not to move it, is to stop trying.
Right.
So, yes, it looks like someone put a blog post out there, so it seems like it's new news. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are getting informed about it. But yeah, you need to listen to trigger words, because for trigger words listeners, this is old news. So, all right, I think that'll be enough for that, Jason. Do you see any questions coming in you want to cover?
Yeah, I was curious what Brandon's talking about, the Vortex Extreme Challenge. What is that? Do you know anything about that?
I have no idea. And why didn't they invite me? What the heck? He's asking for a new pack. He said, looking at the herbally stock. I never know how to pronounce that. Someone correct me on that one. Sure, they're cool packs. I think they make really nice, like, bomb-proof packs, but I just don't like the whole rifle sleeve or carrier that they have on the packs. I don't like the idea of storing the rifle in the pack. I'm going to sound like a whiner here, but it just seems unsafe to me. And I used to teach at a government contracted sniper school for years after I left the military out in North Phoenix there. And the owner of the school, I actually wasn't out as the instructor that day. It was the lead instructor was out there, and the owner of the school was out there. And we had some SF snipers going through the course. I had the day off for their 10-day course. And they were shooting out of a building and then had to get up and move out of position real quick. And the guy takes his 300 Win Mag, and he picks the rifle up, and he goes to put it down into that early stock or herbal stock, whatever pack. And the problem with the 700 is when you push forward, that takes the safety off, right? So he's shoving the rifle forward, which takes the safety off. Trigger gets hit either on his finger or on the bag, and he cranks a 300 Win Mag round through the bottom of the pack and in between the owner of the school's feet into the ground. So everybody froze, and they all went, okay, no more using those packs. So I don't think those packs are unsafe. Please don't get me wrong in this podcast. I think they're a cool company. I think they're cool packs. I just don't like storing the rifle in that sleeve in the backpack. So I've seen plenty of packs. I've actually thought about getting one. And even though they're probably going to hate me now for just telling that story, I might check them out and try and get one of their packs, because the rest of their packs are really kind of cool. I just don't get storing the rifle inside of a scabbard in the pack. Just my preference. Or if you're going to do it, just be careful. That's not me saying the pack is unsafe. That's just me saying whenever a rifle is being moved the direction the barrel's pointing, be careful. You know, there's a story of a cop reaching up on top of a roof one time, and he found the shotgun, and he put his finger in the barrel because that's all he could reach, and grabbed it and pulled it. Well, just always remember, no matter where a firearm is, if you're sliding it the direction the barrel's pointing, you run the risk of firing it, because if the trigger hits something, that's the direction you need to pull the trigger. So when you're sliding stuff in, be extra careful so it doesn't go off. Brandon says it's an endurance 7-mile race with long distance shooting competition.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, none of that. I'm getting too old and too out of shape for that. I don't know, Brandon, that sounds fun. Dude, I need to go look that up. That might be a fun thing to go. Casey asked, was it the pack or the 700? Might have been both. Again, I'm not blaming the pack. Again, I shouldn't have said that way. It's not a pack problem. It's actually a problem of just be aware that when you're moving a firearm the direction the barrel points, be careful. If you have to drag something, try and drag it the opposite direction. That way the trigger can't ever be hit on anything. That goes for crawling with a rifle on the ground and anything. You got to be careful. Whenever we do stalks or you're sneaking up as a sniper low crawling, we would often open the bolt so that there's no way for it to fire. So anyway. Does that answer that?
That answered that.
All right. So what's going on with you, Jason? You had mentioned something about cold bore. You had a question about that?
I did. So, sadly enough, I've not been able to go out and do much shooting with everything else that's been going on and getting ready for this trip. But the one thing I've been wanting to talk about from last two experiences, and we've talked a little bit about how most cold bore shots, if someone misses, is typically the shooter and
Yes.
not the cold bore shot, right?
Yes.
And I don't disagree with that. But as I've been shooting more and more ammo, and the gun does heat up and it does change my minute of angle, I've noticed that my first shot, typically I'm off or I do miss the target just a little bit until the gun warms up a little bit. And the cold bore shot for me, for a hunting aspect, is the most important one, right?
Yep.
I guess any suggestions other than shooting one time and then waiting an hour for it to cool down to, figure this out? Because most of my data is based on 10 rounds later.
Yeah, and most of ours
not
is
the first
for sure.
round, right? Well, I would like to get more accurate with the first shot,
So
just for a hunting aspect.
Just guessing, your subsequent rounds as you shoot, especially you start shooting a lot, they start striking higher on the target?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know why that is?
I'd imagine it has to do with the barrel heating up and...
So hotter cartridges shoot at higher velocities. So the hotter the powder is, the faster it actually can shoot. So that happens too, just your ambient temperature. So if you zero at freezing temperatures and you shoot again in Phoenix at 120 degrees, your impacts will be higher because of the heat. And it's a double problem because of the heat. So it's not only your impacts are going to be higher on target the hotter it gets, because the air density. So the air is going to be less dense as you shoot. So it means less resistance for the bullet. So it's going to strike higher. That's one reason it's going to strike higher. The other reason it's going to impact higher is the powder is actually warmer when it ignites, which means it can burn faster and you'll get an increased velocity of your bullet. So in hotter temperatures, your bullet not only starts off faster out of the end of the barrel, it also doesn't slow down as much through the air. So you end up striking higher on the target. Now, when you shoot a bunch of rounds in a row and your barrel heats up, especially when you shoot a bunch of rounds in a row and then shoot 10 rounds quickly and then leave the 11th round in the chamber for a while so it has a chance to heat up, that 11th round is really going to be faster because it got a chance to heat up in that hot chamber. Okay, I know some guys that'll, target shooters, which are not me, that really want perfect groups, they'll either put their rounds in, seriously, ice chests or cover them up in the shade, not even let the sun get them warmed up. I don't care about that. To me, men of the bad guy is what I want to hit. I mean, you know me, I want to hit steel targets and move to the next steel target. I don't want to hit bullseyes, but some people do, and that's fine. For those guys, yeah, they might want to check the temperature. They'll even bring little, laser infrared thermometers to be checking their chamber temperature and brass temperature because it can matter that much. As a matter of fact, it matters so much, Jason, that you can almost never say what velocity your cartridge shoots at without also stating the temperature. So you can't say, oh yeah, these bullets shoot at 2,850 feet a second, because that's only true at one temperature. So even if you have these super accurate reloads that you made, they're only going to be 2,850 feet a second at 75 degrees. It goes to 110 degrees, they will be a different temperature. And if you graphed it out on a chart, it actually goes exponential. So as it gets warmer, you'll see the velocity increase, and then all of a sudden it'll take off. And that's because the chamber pressure will get so much. Or sometimes you'll see weird dips. It'll get to a certain point and then dip because it's too much pressure and it burns too fast. So it can be an exponential change, but you've got to know what's going on. So if you're only going to remember one variable, I would say temperature.
Right.
If you only had to write down one and you had to do your dope chart, you wanted to take an index card or a piece of paper and write down, from 0 to 1,000 what your come-ups were, I would say on the top of the card vertically, write from the lowest temperature you're going to shoot to the highest temperature and write down your dope. So you can say at 70 degrees, I'm up 12 at 500. But at 110 degrees, I'm up at 11 at 500. I don't need to come up as much because the bullet's going to impact higher. So that would be how you'd make your grid because temperature matters so much. So now for you, yeah, you're making hotter rounds. They're going to shoot higher. You're also going to have a hotter barrel, which is going to whip more. And there's no guarantee there. So I just guessed your rounds were higher. They also could have been left or right. Yes, as it gets hotter, your gun can start shooting to the right. That's because as your barrel's whipping, you guys are going to think I'm full of it here, but trust me, it's actually true, is there's a certain amount of whip and vibration to your barrel that when the bullet leaves, that you will have completely different impacts with different ammo. So you could take some Federal Gold Medal match, and some Hornady, and shoot them, and they will end up in groups next to each other. And you think about it, you go, how in the world could two different brands of ammo group side by side? You would think they could group vertically because one's faster or one's slower, right? But you can actually get groups side by side. And yes, all the Hornadys will go one way and all the Federals will go the other way. And that should blow your mind if you stop and think about why it could go left or right. Well, what it is the shape of the bullet, the pressure of the cartridge going off, how fast the powder is burning, all that kind of stuff. That was when that barrel is flexing and whipping, it's where it's in that whip, in that frequency as it's vibrating when the bullet exits. So one bullet is exiting as the bullet is whipping and the barrel's whipping and it's a little to the side, so it's sending it one way. The other one's exiting when the barrel's whipping slightly the other way, so it's sending it that way. There really is that much of a difference. That's why when guys will be producing loads for themselves and reloading, they'll go for what's called an accuracy node, where you'll shoot different velocity bullets. You'll load 28.1 grains of powder, 28.2 grains of powder, 28.3, things like that. And they'll go out and shoot, and they'll shoot the 28.1 grains at one target, and you'll watch the groups from big to small to big again. You can actually just check for when the velocity levels out, or when it's what's called a ladder test. You can actually shoot your bullets at paper all at the same target. You can take each single load of powder, Jason. So you can take one load at one powder, the next load, and not do groups, and just shoot at the piece of paper. And what you'll see is you'll see a low bullet because you started low, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Then 3 or 4 will stay in the same spot, and then they'll start getting higher again. Well, those 3 or 4 in the middle is called the accuracy node for that barrel and that gun. That's right where the barrel happens to be whipping just right at that velocity that those bullets go. So that's that zone between, I'm just making up numbers here, between 30.1 and 30.4 is where you want to get for your accuracy node to figure out what's going on. So as your barrel gets hotter, it whips more. So that's another problem for accuracy. So you're back to your question on how do you compensate for it? Man, if you've got a cold bore shot and it's consistent every time, then measure it and compensate for it. I just think what most people call a quote unquote cold bore shot is really the cold shooter shot. And it's so easy for us to blame the equipment instead of blaming ourselves. So that's what I think is going on now. If you are seeing a consistent bullets going up the target as you get warmer, then you better account for that and write down what the difference is.
Right.
Yeah. Our SR-25s did that in the military. They walked up the paper. You could shoot 3 to 5 round group nice. And if you shot 10 rounds, you could actually watch the holes go right up the paper.
Yeah. And that's what's going on. I mean, it's been consistent enough now. It's always dead center, but it's, you know, it's a 12-inch steel target at 900 yards. I always start, first shot is right at the bottom of it. And then I'll be, all right, I'll make my adjustment. But I know within, 5 to 8 rounds, I got to come right back because it's starting to climb back up.
Yeah, that's just your barrel heating up. So that's different than what I'd call a cold bore shot. But yeah, it's having to do with a cold barrel. So it sounds like I'm mincing my words here. But just some people say the cold bore shot is, oh, my barrel goes a minute and a half high and left for the first shot. And then from shot number 2 to shot number 1,000, it's all the same. That's what I disagree with.
No.
Now,
Mine are staying consistent.
I completely agree that as you shoot and it gets hotter, you will get more variation and the bullets will start to climb up the paper. That'll happen with any gun. So Brandon just asked, can they impact left and right as well? I just said that, Brandon. You want me to go shoot the Vortex Challenge with you? Come on, man. I'm just kidding. Red Leg asked, could the node be detected just using a chronograph? I've seen some arguments that it can be, but I don't think it can because every bullet that's leaving with more and more powder should be getting a little bit more velocity. Of course, there's differences here. For some cartridges, you put too much powder, you can actually get less velocity. I know that doesn't make any sense, but you end up getting a fireball out of the end of the barrel and the bullet never gets up to speed or all these different problems. So it's not really a speed issue that you can tell from the bullet. It's actually a speed issue related to your barrel, Red Leg. So I'd want to see it on paper. A way you can do it too is with Sharpies. You ever colored bullets, Jason?
I've never done it, but we've talked about it.
Yeah. So just take a group of if you can get 5 different colors, go get a color pack of Sharpies and just color around the ogive of the bullet. So the width of the bullet where it's just sticking out of the brass, put a ring of different colors for all 10 if you can, or all 5, and shoot them. And you actually see the rings of color on the paper. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I've never done that, but it makes sense. I mean, we kind of do the same thing when you're balancing a ceiling fan. I mean,
yeah. So Millennial Marksman brought up a good point. He said you can see the charge weights. I've seen a lot of people do it. I've just never done it. I need to figure it out. But Millennial's right. You can see a settling. Some guys will even show a chart. And the way you figure it out is you write down all the velocities from each load. And then in between each velocity in the next column over in a piece of paper, you write the difference. So the delta between the two velocities. So up 10 feet per second, 10 feet per second, 10 feet per second. And then all of a sudden you'll see it settle out and you'll see that node in there. So Tim said, I saw my apology on Facebook. Appreciate that, Tim. I actually was a half apology, but mostly sarcasm, because I sent out all the stuff about Mayday safety, which, dude, we got to talk about. It launched today. Mayday
for
safety
iPhones.
live. Yes. For the civilized world.
Yeah. I don't like iPhones.
It's coming for Android soon. I couldn't, we're bootstrapping this thing. This has all been in-house. So we decided we're not going to build both first and see if it works. So we figured out that iPhone's a lot harder to code for. It's more complicated. So we went for the more complicated one first to figure out that we can get a working model. And then once it's out there, we're doing Android. So matter of fact, right in conjunction with the release of the iTunes app today for Apple, we've started Android, and it's only going to be a few weeks out. So we'll get it done soon. But I just got so many responses from people. Where's the book? Where's the course? Which I get it. I'm delayed. I get it. You guys want it. Trust me. I will never complain that you guys are anxious for one of my products. I love your loyalty. That is the coolest thing I have going for me, is from all the people on Facebook, from these YouTube videos, from the podcasts. Yeah, you might be listening for information, but you're listening because we kind of like have our own little tribe here, if you will. We have our own little group of following, which I think is awesome, and what makes me want to keep doing these things. So I'm not complaining about that. What I'm complaining about is do we have a clean podcast, Jason? I forget. Do we cuss on here? I don't think we do.
No.
I had a few assholes today that some people were just stern. And I don't call that being an a-hole, but some people were just jerks about it. Like, well, if you would have been working on this instead of that, I would have had this done. Like, you're right. So I put a kind of sarcastic apology of, you know what? I decided after the Florida shooting that someone needed to do something besides try to ban guns that was actually going to help. And so I decided on our own to develop an app that we ended up releasing for free to the entire world on iPhones. I get it, but Android's coming soon, which will be free to the entire world. And we were going to upcharge for the family and try and figure out a way of an in-app purchase to upgrade. And we decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to make a difference and try and make kids and families and people safer. And yes, I'm going to try and sell it to businesses so they can have like a dashboard to manage their organization to try and make money. But we decided to do this altruistic thing, and it has been, you guys can't even imagine how many sleepless nights, unless you see me commenting on Facebook at 3 and 4 in the morning, trying to get this thing done, to get it done. So when I got just all those comments back, it kind of pissed me off. And I'm like, yes, sorry. I'm trying to help kids be safer. I'm sorry I didn't get your precious book done. So I'm better now, though. I stopped my bitching after that one post.
You need a Snickers, man. You're not yourself until you have a Snickers.
I do. So anyway, it was a crazy day. So it was a stressful day, but a good stressful day. It is. I have just my phone all day, ping, 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 text messages, emails going crazy. It also might have to do with the fact that through using my email marketing software, I sent out a little over 5,000 emails today.
Oof.
People that are on certain. Well, I didn't do them by hand. I mean, I did them 1,000 at a time to different groups, but I have. If you got an email from me, it's because I have you tagged somewhere, what relationship you have with me or stuff like that. So I sent out the emails and a lot of responses and just got it going, and just nervous as can be that it's, the software is on Amazon Web Services. So it's got servers all over the place, and getting the redundant servers set right. And then the text messaging set up to that works, and the iTunes, dude, it was a nerve-wracking day to release it and make sure nothing crashed. And as far as I can tell, nothing crashed. And it just got overwhelmed with people, and it still works. So it was good. But for everyone that downloaded the Mayday app, I appreciate it. I don't know quite yet. I know that 6,000 instances of the app got interacted with today, but I don't know how many of those are duplicates. I have a feeling it's a ton of duplicates. I'd be surprised if a few hundred downloaded it today to give me all those instances, but still, I think it's amazing. So if you're listening right now, please pause. If it's live, you can't pause it, I guess. Maybe you can catch back up. Please pause and go download the Mayday Safety app. Because here's the thing. If you like the information we're putting out, if you like talking about figuring out charge weights and cold barrels and stuff like that, and you like tuning in, and you're happy with the stuff that Jason and I are doing for you guys, here's a way you can say thank you to me. Maybe you can figure out something else for Jason. Go to iTunes, if you have an Apple product, and download the Mayday Safety app. Try it out. That's number one. Number two is leave a review. And number three is tell everybody you know about it. It is free. It is something that I hope makes people safer. But all of those downloads and all of those reviews at the beginning are going to be huge for the success of the app. That you can only imagine how much dividends that pays me the more it gets out there. And the beauty is when you add your family to it, it automatically asks other people to join for the family. So it kind of grows and grows and grows. Like Jason, you got an invite today, didn't you?
I did. Actually, my daughter downloaded it and already
Yeah, that's
added
awesome.
me to her list. And I don't think I can do anything with it yet because mine's an Android. So my suggestion would be, yes, download the app, use it on your iPhone. As soon as the Android one's released, sell your iPhone, buy an Android, and then re-download it again.
Yeah, so if you guys do that and you spread the word, I really appreciate it. I'm figuring out how to make a good referral contest for it, so it doesn't hurt to refer it now. I'm gonna, by next week, my dedication to you guys is I'm gonna have a contest figured out where I figured out I'm just gonna give a $200 Amazon gift card because I thought that seemed like a good figure to get you guys motivated. And Amazon is you can use it for whatever you want. And I'll do a contest where you get points for how much you refer. So you'll enter the contest, and then it'll give you a screen and it'll say share it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And for however many places you share it, you'll get another entry in the contest. Or maybe I'll start giving out my gear. Didn't we talk about that last time? Is I have a garage full of like just tactical shooting gear that I don't use anymore. It's used, some of it, but you guys might want it. So maybe I'll just start doing, you know what, Jason, let's definitely do that. I think we figured out how we're going to do it, at least for the next one. I want to encourage people listening to the podcast. So Mayday Safety, go do it. I'd really appreciate it. It by itself, the free version, it is all the tools you can use to help keep yourself, your family safer. Even your organization and school, if you don't want to use the pro version, it'll still work. It'll work on the nearby alerts. It'll work on all that stuff. And it's just works. Just go check it out. You'll see what I mean. The coding, everything is simple. It can take up to 2 weeks for Apple to approve an app. And so the faster it gets approved, the better that is, because that means your code is cleaner or it's more stable or stuff like that. And we got a 20-hour turnaround. So 20 hours later, they approved it, which is just a great compliment from the App Store to get that going. So yeah, Red Leg said collector garage sale. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a collector garage sale, just grabbing stuff I don't want and just be like, all right, here's what's up next. Here's what we're going to give away.
And I know how we're going to do it.
All right, what are we going to do?
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do like a Find Waldo on your wall behind you. And the first person that can find whatever little item it is hidden on the wall somewhere and respond on the messaging board.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe we should do that for the live. I'll consider that.
Because everybody tries to look at any new thing on the wall. I mean, we should come up with something that you're going to hide on your wall, at least for a couple of them.
Something new? I like that idea. So I want to encourage people to subscribe. I want to encourage people to subscribe and follow along fast. So I was thinking of doing just giving out a code, or maybe it will be on the wall, Jason. I think I like that idea. But something that you're incentivized to be the first one to find it. Because I want you to subscribe to the podcast when your favorite podcast player, whether it's iTunes podcasts or Android Play or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. By subscribing to the podcast, you'll be notified faster of the episodes. So you have more of a chance to find out there's a new episode available, so you can tune in and then you'll see the item or you'll hear the special code word or something like that. Casey says, put a code on the wall. That's funny. I'm going to need a better camera. My camera too bad, Hydrolife? I'm just using my Max camera right here. Clean it off. Is that any better? No? Oh, well. So, all right, we'll figure something out. So next spot, here's what you guys got to do, though. Subscribe, because that way you'll be notified right away. So you'll have the best chance of getting it. And however we do it, whether it's an item on the wall or whether it's a code or whether it's something, the incentive is to be the first one to do it. So you want to hear it faster than everybody else. And I'll put a place to enter the code somewhere. And whoever the first person is will win whatever the prize is. Tim John Hall says, Ryan Kleckner, Lego Man. That'd be awesome. You guys send me one. I'll put it up there. That'd be funny. So in the military, I used to have a dog I called Smokey. It was a little magnetic, bendable Dalmatian dog. And I would put him in a different smoking position. So smoking means getting punished in the military. Push-ups, flutter kicks, squats, whatever. Okay, it's getting smoked, is getting in trouble with physical correction. And I'd put him in a different position every day. So it'd be like the workout of the day. And I was such an ass that whenever someone that worked for me do something that pissed me off, I would actually just lean down and be like, why don't you go ahead and go see Smokey? And I'd make them run down to my office. And they'd be sprinting to my office. I'd come walking in a few seconds later and they'd be like looking at Smokey on my refrigerator to see what he was doing. That's how much of a jerk I was. I feel bad for that, but it's still a funny story.
Well, I'll try to come up with some ideas on some of the other stuff too. Because let's see, I'm going to see you sometime in the next couple of months. Yeah.
Dude, the next couple of weeks, yeah, we're coming out soon. We're going to go to Arizona and come see you. No time for shooting though. We're going to be there for a week, and it's going to be solid family. We're blessed to have so much family, but just trying to see everybody is going to be difficult.
It'll drag you down. It's wonderful to do that, but it's hard in the same sense, especially when your family's the size of ours. Yes.
It's why.
I got a swimming pool.
My wife wanted to go, of course, when school's out for the kids, but I mean, one of the reasons I'm not in Arizona anymore, because Arizona is amazing. I love everything about that state except for the valley, except for Phoenix. And we're coming into the valley, so I'm already getting ready for concrete and hot days.
It won't be that bad. It's only like high 90s right now. You're good.
I'm gonna have to like pack a case of ammo, man. I'm gonna have to deal with all the drug cartels down there and stuff. I'm gonna be the only one rolled around with an AR. Actually, no, I won't be. Everyone,
no, you won't be. Yeah. Everybody's got.
Yeah, people don't get that either. When I moved, people are like, "Oh no, you had a truck gun." Oh, it's a truck gun, like to shoot a hogs. Like, no, you got a bailout bag and a truck gun. That's what you do down in the valley. Yep. Millennial says, "Hey, at least it's a dry heat." I know you're kidding, Millennial. My response to that was always, "So is your oven." Doesn't mean you want to stick your head in there, but yeah, that's funny. So
no, actually, dude, it's been real nice in the evenings and the mornings. It is a little warm in the afternoon. Not as bad as it was a week or so ago.
Well, Millennial's right. The dry heat is nice. Is that I grew up where you're at now? Is when you stepped in the shade, it was colder. So Millennial said he lived there for 18 years. So you back me up on this one, Millennial. When you step in the shade, it's actually cooler than the sun.
Yep.
Or if you close your eyes in Phoenix and turn any particular direction, you can tell right where the sun is. It's blatantly obvious which direction the sun is because you can feel the heat. In Tennessee or in Savannah where I was stationed, the shade was the same temperature as the sun because the air was actually what was hot. And there were times you could close your eyes and turn around and not know where the sun was because the air around you, that humidity, was the heat. So I completely get it. So Nashville heat's not that bad, Wes. Nashville's pretty awesome. The only downside to Tennessee is not the public lands. Like 2/3 of the state of Arizona is go do whatever you want. Drive anywhere, shoot anywhere, do whatever you want. And you cannot see anyone else for the entire time you're out there. In Tennessee, you try and go anywhere and you're on somebody's land. That's the only problem.
Yep.
So anyway. All right. So did we cover cold bore for you? Does that make sense for you?
Yes.
I mean, mark it down, figure it out, but it's going to change for ammo too.
So no, it's just a matter of me changing my dope charts because everything I have is based further down the line. So
try that graph. Try the y-axis being your distance and the x-axis across the top being your temperature. And just make that a graph and go from 30 to 120. And then whenever you get a distance into dope for distance, you're like, oh, I need, like I said, up 12 minutes for 500. Just note the temperature and write it for that distance and temperature, right up 12. And you'll be able to see the graph change as it goes. Other thing you can do is if you start playing with Excel, maybe I'll make this someday when all my free time. I'll make you guys an Excel file that you guys can download and use. Is you put in your dope, Jason, and the temperature, and then it graphs it out with a bunch of different lines depending on the temperature. So you see a bunch of curved lines that spread out. And so you can just pick the line for the temperature and you can see your dope all the way out for the distance, what the drop is. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I just need to kind of do it because the temperature is not so much my problem as it is shooting a bunch of rounds at the same time of day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's getting that first shot dialed in better than what I actually have my charts dialed in at.
Right. Well, another thing that can cause a problem, which is completely counter to everything I just talked about, is your barrel gets hot enough, you can get a lot of mirage off your barrel and your scope. So you'll see the heat waves coming up.
Yeah.
It'll make you can tell when the top of the target starts looking like it's fluttering.
Yeah.
Right. That actually makes your target image appear taller. Right? Because it makes the image stretch up. So you actually end up aiming a little higher in this imaginary higher target. That's another reason you can miss higher. But don't let that confuse you and worry about that now. If you're worried about the mirage changing your impact and you have not mastered everything else, please ignore that. That is probably, I think I've narrowed that down to my biggest mistake. Biggest mistake long-range shooters make is worrying about the minutia when they don't know how to shoot yet. I would rather not know the grain weight bullet, the velocity, the barrel length, or all these other things. Seriously, the twist rate of my barrel, I'd rather not know any of that and apply good fundamentals to be able to hit a target. Now, I get it. When you get out to distance, you're not going to be able to hit very well if you don't know all those things. But if you don't have good fundamentals, you're not going to hit very well either. So I'm saying if you held a gun to my head and made me pick which one I wouldn't want to know, I'd rather have good fundamentals with a random bullet than the perfect bullet and bad fundamentals. So just the point is, don't stress out about that. Instead, focus on what you control, get good at what you can do, and don't shoot past 100, 200, 300 yards. Get good results, get good consistent results. Matter of fact, get good results that you can call your shots on. That's why dry practice is so important. If you hit and don't know why you hit, I'm not impressed, and you're not going to get any better. But if you miss and you know exactly why you missed, you're going to get better. So take the time to dry practice and shoot, and gun goes off and go, you know what? That was slightly right and a little bit low when the trigger broke. Say it out loud. Be honest with yourself. Don't just think it. Because if you ever taken a test in school and you look at the back of the book for the answers, if you don't write it down or say the answer out loud, you're going to be like me. You're like, I think it might be B. Oh, no, it's C. Yep, I thought it was C. Same thing goes with shooting. Call it out loud. Be honest. Own your shots. And when you get good at calling your shots, you're going to get good at that feedback and get better at shooting. And then worry about wind. And then worry about your bullet. And then on down the line on priorities. But don't worry about them all at once. Or else, dude, you're going to be sitting there with a slide rule and a scientific calculator and a Kestrel and a computer trying to figure out something, and you can't shoot the target anyway. Make sense?
Yep. Although it is fun to get exciting, you get excited.
Oh, it is.
Sometimes when you.
But the reason it's exciting is because it's fun to the challenge. Don't do it all at once. You know what I mean? Like if you build up, the excitement keeps lasting.
For instance, wind. I still have not mastered wind by any means.
Nobody's mastered it.
So when I actually make a call and I hit it, it's yay. You know what I mean?
Even guys that have mastered wind, which are a lot better shooters than me, when it comes to extreme long range shots, like they talk about the record shots are like 2,000 meter shots you hear about in the news. Like, man, they must have mastered wind. No, if they did that on purpose and they could do it again, they've mastered reading the future. Not reading the wind. Because if the bullet takes 5 seconds to get there, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 seconds from now. So even if you calculated the wind precisely, when that bullet takes off and goes, and it takes 5 seconds to get to the target, if that wind gusts within 5 seconds or dies down within 5 seconds, it's going to change the impact. So it's tough. You're never going to get good at it. I mean, perfect at it. Which, by the way, is why it's fun. Right? If the name of the game was moving a mouse on your screen and clicking a dot, that wouldn't be very challenging. So keep that in mind when you work on stuff, is try to go to the range and say, you know what I'm going to work on this time? This. And work and work and work and master that, and then slowly go. And by the time you're too old to keep shooting well anymore, you will finally sort of mastered everything. But if you sit there and try and focus on 20 variables at once, it's just confusing. I mean, you guys know Jason and I, what we talk about. We like to keep it simple. That's not because we figured out some crazy trick. That's because it is simple if you make it simple. You know, the Coriolis effect. Jason, have you ever calculated the Coriolis effect when you're shooting?
No.
Have you needed to?
No. It's
because you hit or you miss based on what you do. Now, it does matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it just matters way, 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 way down the line.
So my knowledge on all of this is so underneath where your knowledge is at, right? So I stick with what we talked about from the very beginning, which is just consistency. I try to keep everything as consistent as possible without all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm
also just worry about what needs to be worried about, right? I mean, you're trying to make a race car faster. Don't get down to the minutia of the tread pattern and the expansion of the rubber in different temperatures and how it's going to vary the tread pattern when you're still driving a Toyota Corolla around the racetrack. Well, right? I mean, like start with the big things and then slower and slower and change and change and change and change. You know, or the Toyota Corolla analogy, don't spend a fortune on titanium lug nuts to make your Toyota Corolla faster on a racetrack, right? Maybe that's the last thing you should be worrying about. You should be worrying about something else. Millennial Marksman asked, man, you're commenting a lot tonight, man. I'm glad. You said adding onto ELR shooting, extreme long range, there's a chance for multiple wins between firing position. Oh, of course. He says even in canyons, even on flat ground. I've often watched a trace of the bullet take off and then blow from the right to the left and then blow back from left to right again. I've actually watched like an S shape of the bullet go right to the target. It's amazing. Richard says, I read where Carlos Hathcock would go to the range and fire one round, write down all the atmospherics, then do that again the next day. Every day till it is dope. And every shot was cold bore then. Maybe. If you did that, that's cool. I don't think that's necessary. I also don't believe I'm going to get a bunch of hate mail on this one. I don't believe most of the stuff I read about Carlos Hathcock. I think he was an amazing shooter. He was an amazing man, an amazing sniper, but I think he's been made a little bit too much of a legend. And I don't think that's necessary. I mean, I could, straight out of the movie Sniper, I could take a file and file the tips of my bullets every time. And I think I'm a good shooter. And if you guys want to be as good of a shooter as me, you could say someday, I heard that Ryan Kleckner used to file the tips of his bullets with a hand file before he shot each one. And that, although that might be true, that doesn't mean that's what made me a good shooter. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, and it's back to what you were saying earlier. I got really frustrated at the beginning because I was trying to figure out too many things. Trying to get it all calced in, and it was upsetting at first. I remember talking to you saying, "Man, I'm pretty frustrated. This is not going the way I wanted it to go."
Well, yeah, you're right. And so, what did you focus on instead?
I just scrapped it all, man, and went right back to just shooting.
Yeah, but what about shooting? Help us, because I want to hear. I don't want to hear if you get it quote unquote right compared to the way I think about it. I think that our listeners learn so much from you and your experience. I really mean it. Like, I want to learn from you on what you helped focus on. Now, real quick, hold on, because In the Shape of Human is getting impatient. He keeps asking me about loophole shooting. In the Shape of Human, that's the comment following along on the text. I don't know why I did this. Don't ask me to explain it because I can't. However, I've drawn a line in my mind what I won't teach about long range shooting, and it makes no sense. It's an artificial line. It may make no difference in the world, but I have more than once questioned my conscience on teaching long range shooting to people. And what if I'm teaching bad people or enemies of our country or horrible people out there to shoot? I will admit, after the Las Vegas shooting, I came and looked at my customer list to make sure he never purchased a book from me, because I didn't want to have my book found among his stuff. And that made me seriously sit there and question, should I be giving out training like this to people that I don't know? Because in a training course, I make people go through a background check and I check out who they are. And for some reason, in The Shape of Human, when it comes to making hide sights, shooting through loopholes, and some more what I would consider sniper craft, I've kind of made it my rule that I won't teach that unless I'm in a class where I know it's law enforcement, military, I've done background checks. So I know how to do it. There's some cool tricks and ways to do it, but I just don't feel comfortable teaching on the internet how to actually be a sniper from hidden spots and make shots. So sorry, man. Go ahead, Jason.
No, no problem.
So what do you focus on?
So, well, if you remember back when we first started, we started with the AR-15 platform with the AAC, right?
Yep.
I went out, put a bunch of shots through it, called you, said, dude, this thing is not accurate at all. And you asked me first thing, what ammo are you shooting? I said, well, I'm shooting just regular.
I don't remember that. I'm glad you're bringing this up because my memory was like you loved it, but that's funny. Okay.
No. Hated it. So nothing was working out. And you said, okay, you need to change your ammo first thing. Right?
What were you shooting?
I was just shooting Full Metal Jacket Bowtails.
Was it at least 223?
Yeah, 223, of course.
I'm shooting these 22s. It's not working.
Yeah, it's not working.
Most of them don't go off. They just fall at the end.
So then I went out, and that's when I got introduced into Spire Points, right? I called you. I said, hey, they got a big sell on this ammo, man. It looks really good. You're like, yeah, you probably want match grade, but those sound fine. Anyway, I bought those, went out, had the same results. Came back home, and that's when we found out from the factory the barrel nut was not tight.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. The barrel was actually wiggling in the
That's correct. So I started to tear it apart to figure out what was going on. I'm like, hey, this thing wiggles. And
I remember this now. I actually think I told you were wrong. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And I think you sent me a video of him actually going click, click, click.
Yeah, exactly. So I was off to a rough start from the get-go. So because we talked about, you need to take the scope off and shoot at irons. I mean, we went through a whole barrage of stuff minus the barrel possibly being loose.
Yeah, maybe the engine's loose. That's funny.
So that's how that all started for me. And then of course we got into me building my own AR, right? Which that started a whole new process for me.
Which ruined you again.
It did.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we got into the bolt action gun. But before the bolt action gun, the SPR that I built, that is where I actually started to get frustrated because I was overcomplicating everything. I was taking everything from the podcast and trying to mesh it all together, right? And that was not working for me.
Yep. Hey,
'cause
pause that real quick. Well, I'm thinking of it. 5 Kleckner ARs are coming out.
Oh,
So let's do them together.
Wait.
I have all the components, I have all the whatever, but let's do it together somehow. We'll figure out a way to do it. So it'll be like
Okay.
both Jason and Ryan. But I have 5. That's it. All I'm making is 5 for this batch for stuff coming out. Full on Kleckner logo, Kleckner marked precision rifles. Go ahead. So you were making your SPR.
Yeah, so we made the SPR and I went out and started shooting, and I was having a hard time with it. Now, the worst thing that I was doing was I was out shooting by myself because that's all I had was myself, right? So
that's all anybody has, Jason.
Yeah, I know, but it's so much better now that I got a good spotting scope and somebody to actually watch what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I was hiking out, setting up big pieces of cardboard, shooting groups at the cardboard, then hiking back out and then getting my data that way. And trying to get everything figured out, there was, at the beginning, there was times I didn't touch the cardboard at all. And these were big pieces of cardboard, that I was setting up at 800 yards. So then it was back to the drawing board. So it was pretty frustrating at first for me. But once I got rid of all that, we talked about the Vortex ballistics calculator website. I got on that, printed a chart, went out, stacked my cardboard at all different yardages, and started collecting data. And then after 2 trips of doing that, and then it doing my calculations for me, that changed everything for me. Because now everything was close enough that I could actually really dial it in. Mm-hmm. I was always close enough on the cardboard or the target to make it work for me and get there right away. Whereas before, that's not what was happening for me.
Well, good. So what do you focus on now? When you go to the range, what is it you have to remind yourself to focus on, or what is it that you're looking to improve on that trip?
So the main thing I focus on that I've had to teach myself through this process is I used to just get down and shoot. And that's where I caught myself making my biggest mistakes. So what I do first thing, and I even make my brother do it or whoever's with me do it, is before they shoot the gun, I make them dry fire at least 5 shots because all my guns are different. And
you mean dry fire? Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, yeah, just
that's the way to do it. You should. Yeah, you should wait. You should actually shoot till you get 5 perfect presses.
Right.
So if it takes you 20 times, take 20 times. But yeah.
Yeah, and even to this day, it catches me off guard, with that Trigger Tech trigger. I mean, it's so different than, the Geissele triggers that I have to remind myself because I'm not shooting enough to always remember where it's at. That right there has probably been the biggest changing point for me.
Awesome. I'm glad you said that. Good. Because I agree.
So that's been a big one. The other big one is I've changed what I stuff inside my backpack to kind of wrap up around the stock when I'm laying on the ground.
Okay.
Before I was just using.
Are you not using a sandsock at the rear? Are you using your backpack at the back of your rifle?
I'm using a backpack. Yeah.
All right. We're going to change your world. You need to use a sandsock, man.
Well, I've been using the backpack because I always carry my backpack. So I'm trying to keep it more.
I agree, but your backpack should be the front of your rifle.
That's what the bipod's for, man. I know you hate bipods.
No, bipods are great. Bipods are awesome. Kickstands on motorcycles are awesome. I just don't think you should be using the kickstand while you're riding the motorcycle. I don't think you should be using the bipod when you're running the gun necessarily. I shoot off of them sometimes, but no, I think you should shoot off the bag in the front for sure, and then use a proper sandsock in the back. It really makes a difference. So you're doing okay shooting at the targets, but the second you start getting to the point where you're wanting to shoot more than one target, you're trying to track and find a target, dude, you're going to fight yourself trying to find a coyote out there. Not even just like a running target. I'm just saying, as you're moving across terrain trying to find something, shivvying around and moving a backpack around is just not ideal. So we'll get you a sandsock and try the bag up front and try the sandsock in the rear. And it's just so much easier to move the rifle because you have something like that you can fit in the palm of your hand.
I need to get a bigger backpack then, because like what I'm using now is a real small, thin pack, and it doesn't get the front of the gun up high enough when I'm laying down.
Put the bag on its side.
Yeah, I'd have to do something like that.
Yeah. The idea with the backpack is the consistent platform. If you use bipod legs, it's fine. Again, I've used bipod legs a bunch. The problem is the consistency is they bounce and vibrate different off of dirt. We were out in Arizona, than they do the hood of a car, than they do a shingled roof, than they do a plywood bench.
Right.
So the backpack, it makes it a little more consistent. And I like reaching up and getting whatever I need out of the backpack right in front of me. Right? It's just right there. So you can use bipod legs, but seriously, a sandsock will make a difference because I get what you're doing. You're hugging onto that backpack, but you're fine until you need to move 10 degrees left or right. Then it's probably a pain in the ass. But anyway, all right. So a lot of comments came in. Robert said, I heard that Ryan Kleckner has a lucky rabbit's foot that he rubs to get good shots, and he has them for sale for $9.95 each. That's true, guys. Robert does have those, and that is exactly what I do. And I license them to Robert for $5.95 a piece. So go for it, Robert. Have fun. No, actually, the trick is I eat a pine cone. Every time before I shoot, I eat an entire pine cone. You guys should try that. The one thing I do before I shoot is I usually chug a bunch of coffee. I'm addicted to coffee, and I'll go to the range with a giant coffee, and people can't figure out what's going on. I chug coffee, and I call it accuracy juice. It works for me. I can't pronounce the name. DGI Shido says, however, I met Tiborosaurus Rex or checked out his YouTube. No, I've never met him. I've checked out his YouTube. I've seen, because people have, of course, referenced him. I've seen his videos, and I kind of just skip kind of ahead. Seems like he's got some good stuff. I mean, seems like he's a nice guy. I don't know. The style of teaching isn't for me. I have a different style. I'm not saying I know more or less than him for teaching. That's kind of not my style of teaching stuff. But he's got a lot of great information, so good for him. He's putting it out there. Let's see. More comments about the book, of course. Ryan, am I a 6.5 guy now? Yes, I am 100% on the 6.5 Creedmoor bandwagon. It took me a while. It wasn't the performance. It's every new bolt that comes out has better performance. Guys, everything. 224 Valkyrie, great performance. 300 Norma, great performance. Everything is great performance because that's why it came out. If it had worse performance, they wouldn't release the new cartridge. It's just stop chasing the new sexy thing and then to find out that the company doesn't sell it anymore. You can't find it, or it's too hard to reload, or it's too whatever. I just wanted to wait, and you guys can hear that through all the podcasts and through my book till it really took off and I could be sure it was solidified. About a year ago, it really took off, and you can find it in Walmart just as much as you could find 308. And even now, the military's adopting it. SOCOM's gone to it. They're changing machine guns to 6.5 Creedmoor. It is 100% solidified. It is so much solidified now, I would tell someone, especially in this last 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, I don't know. If you're going to start, I don't recommend starting with 308 anymore. 6.5 is so much more popular now that I actually go to places and see more 6.5 than I do see 308. So if you're starting today, there's no worrying about 6.5 not being popular enough. It is in the military now. It is all sorts of people are making it. Let me show you what I got here real quick. I went out to, if you follow my Instagram, I went to a buddy of mine. He put out like a hunting course. You go up and down the hills for like a mile and a half and shoot from all these different positions. Here's the brass still sitting in my binocular pouch from 6.5 Creedmoor ammo that I'm taking hunting. And it's the S&B. I never know how to pronounce it. Cellular and Bellow, whatever. It's the kind of imported, inexpensive ammo. You seen this, Jason?
No.
It's kind of like cursive written. Cellular and Bellow or Bellet, whatever. They're making 6.5 Creedmoor in a soft point bullet. Smoking accurate. I kid you not. It's a Spitzer-shaped bullet, but it's got kind of a round nose with a big exposed lead to it. This S&B stuff, I think it's 55 cents a bullet for 6.5 Creedmoor for a hunting load. It's because this S&B is always kind of the budget imported, like cheaper stuff. But guys, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to this stuff. And I don't think you can see the head stamp because my camera is not good enough or won't focus good enough. I'm not kidding. I went out and shot that course with the S&B, and there was a couple 150, 175, 200-yard targets where I had some horrible misses. I'm out of shape on the hike and did some bad adjustments. I was shooting my buddy's rifle, and I forgot that it was second focal plane, and I had it down on 2 power because you guys know I don't like magnification. So I shot the whole course on a 2 to 10 power scope on 2 power. And he's telling me, he's like, oh, for that distance, hold to this, to the thick part of the reticle. I'm like, all right. So I held the thick part of the reticle, and it took us halfway through the course to go, oh, wait a minute. That was at 10 power? It was completely off. But anyway, a couple times when I would smack him, He's like, holy cow, do that again. So I do it again. And we're talking like touching holes from a kneeling or from a, leaning forward to the sling position. I don't know if I have any. Maybe I'll give some of this stuff away. I grabbed a few boxes of it, thinking it was just going to be something junky to use. I might take this on the Africa hunt. I'm probably going safari plains game hunting in Africa, and I might go with S&B just because I like going with like a sleeper, or I like to have stuff that looks like it's the basic stuff and then overperform with it. So yeah, 6.5 is like the imported stuff now is 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah, I think it's time to go. Weebad makes great stuff. Herbalist stock packs. Man, I still feel bad about what I said. What I said is true, so I shouldn't feel bad about it. I don't want you guys to ever mistake me thinking anything bad about their packs. I think they're amazing packs. I still think I might get one. Just be very careful when you're doing it. Red Leg says, take a sock and fill it with sand. True. That's why they call it a sand sock. That's a great way to do it. But some of the Weebad stuff is amazing. That's what I'm shooting is Weebad gear. Some of their stuff is so light. It's amazing. Jason says, what? Better make an adjustment to the first book about 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah, the first book's been out for over a couple of years now, man. I said I changed over the past few months. And of course I got to make an update. That's how I get everyone to buy a second book. I got to do an updated edition, of course. What do I think of the Swedish folks first field the 6.5 in their rifles? Yeah, 6.5 by 55 is awesome. I actually was thinking about picking up a Sako hunting rifle, like one of the Mannlicher stocks with the wood that goes all the way to the tip of the barrel. And if you get one of those European style guns, I just thought 6.5 by 55 Swede might be an awesome. Red Leg says Cellular and Beloit. All right. Cellular and Beloit. That's what it is. So Casey says S&B makes the best 338 Lapua, hands down. Really? All right. Federal Gold Medal and Hornady ELDM don't shoot as well. That's amazing. So I like the S&B stuff. And I tell you what, you guys got to go check it out. It is like the cheapest 6.5 Creedmoor stuff especially for a hunting load. And I didn't put it on paper because it was my buddy's rifle and he already had it zeroed. So I have no idea how good a groups it shoots. But as far as minute of kill zone for an animal, it's pretty amazing. Now, one thing I did notice, and you're not going to be able to see, I don't think, on the camera, it won't be able to focus probably enough, is the primer is already really flat. So normally I'm used to seeing primers that crater down into the primer pocket. And when you look for overpressure in a cartridge, what you're looking for is the edges of that primer to see if they've gone from rounded to kind of squared out, to see if they've kind of like bloated up under pressure and gotten flat underneath the bolt face. And these were already like that from the factory. And from what I can tell, they're very hard primers too. So don't freak out if you see that. I have no idea how reloadable they are. So take it for what it is. I've shot a box of the stuff and I kind of like it. You guys let me know what you think. So are we good, man? Did we covered an hour, man?
Yeah, we did. We banged out an hour quick.
You're awesome. I can't wait to see you guys. We come out to Arizona soon. Thanks for coming on. Help me figure out what to give away. You know what I actually have in my garage that I found that I think I might be the first prize? I'm not sure though, so don't make me promise this. Is an ATN, the brand, the company ATN. They make a spotting scope that is night vision. And it takes an SD card so you can record video through the night vision scope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I'll give that away. So
sounds pretty fancy.
Maybe Jason might happen to win. We're gonna have a completely rigged contest. Because to be fair, Jason's gonna be the first one to hear the code.
That's right.
On the wall. So tell you what, I'm not gonna give that away. I'll send that to Jason so you can play with it first. And then if you decide to give it away, you can. But if not, I'll give it to you. So I take that back. I'm not giving it away. Jason could use that. I'll still put it to the use of the podcast so he can play with it and do whatever he wants with it. You might like that for coyote hunting. But yeah, it takes an SD card so you can like record and stuff. Here's the problem. Awesome. I don't like it. It doesn't work right. It's the grainy. It's just, everything about it did not impress me. So right. I tested it out thoroughly and went, it's been sitting in a box for 2 years. So, all right, Jason, it's yours. Use it for the benefit of the podcast, okay?
I'll do it.
All right, so I got to figure out something else to give away. I love my CZ P10. Like, I freaking love that gun. But CZ really hooked me up on that. And it's used. I don't know if you guys would want that. I might give that away. I don't know. I'll figure out something really good for you guys as a prize. I'll figure it out. So subscribe to the podcast to make sure that you're one of the first ones to tune in. Hydrolife said the ACR unicorn. He's talking about that magnesium Remington ACR right there. No chance, Hydrolife. I don't even think my kids are getting that one. I think that one's getting buried with me. So, all right. Jason, thank you so much for joining us again for another week.
Oh, always, man. Always.
And everyone else, you guys are awesome. Thank you for being so active on the chat live on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening and telling a friend. The numbers, for some reason, you guys have I kid you not, 40 or 50% of our downloads Jason and I have had in the past 2 or 3 months. We've been doing this. I've been doing this off and on for a year, and it's just ramped up like crazy. So you guys have listened, you subscribed, and you've at least told one other person about it, and I appreciate that. So please go do that, the Mayday Safety app. And remember that the free app costs me money. I have to pay for the server and the text messaging. So make me broke. Go make me regret giving this away for free. That's what I want you to do. Go tell so many people about it. And if it helps save somebody, trust me, I want to make money, but I'd be happy to stop there if it does. So thank you, everybody, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.